Holley Sniper. What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. I've got a Holley Sniper EFI for Nikki's car. I got this back in December for her for Christmas, and it's time to put it on. I'm going to walk you through the steps. I'm not going to bore you with pulling off an old carburetor. You know how to do that. If you don't, you shouldn't be putting this on. But anyway, pulled off the old carburetor. I'll get this mounted, and I'll show you how I did it for the Mopar application, and hope you enjoy. Okay, quick little tidbit. Not the prettiest motor, so I'm guilty of that, but it runs good. It's gonna run better hopefully after this application. But the intake we're using is the Edelbrock, and it's a DP4B, and it's a spread bore. It's got a notched here. Some guys will experiment and do it an adapter and a spacer, and my first application I'm doing it without. So we're going to give that a try and see how it goes. We can always adjust accordingly, but I just want to show you what we're using. Okay, got the Sniper unit mounted, real basic, like a carburetor, 4 studs, and of course your gasket, nuts. Then you can configure your linkage just like a carburetor. Next step is the supplied temperature sensor. And what I always do is I've got a rubber plumbing plug. This is just an adjustable rubber plug, also used in the back of boats and things like that. Take your cap off, put that down there, give it a few turns, and then if you pull off any accessories like thermostat housing, in my case, I pulled a plug out of the water pump housing. You can see it down there, and you can see the antifreeze is pretty much level. You won't lose anything. This is kind of acting as a little liquid vacuum lock, and you may lose an ounce or so, but anyway, it's a good little trick, so you don't have to drain your radiator and your system and all that jazz. So anyways, I'm gonna put the sensor in there, and then I'm gonna get underneath the car and move on to the oxygen sensor. Okay, Holley supplies you with this threaded stainless steel bung for your sensor. Comes with the gasket and the clamps. Decent setup. If it was regular cold rolled steel, I would weld it, but this is stainless, so it'll probably give me a fit to try to do that. So anyway, I'm going to mount it in a good location, and we'll go from there. All right. So temporary tie wrap the O2 sensor bung, and you've got to drill this out with a 3/4 uni bit. So I am doing this on the driver's side, and you can move this into a good location to get your drill above it, and that's my reasoning for not clamping this. My reasoning for now is just doing the tie wraps is so I can move this basically wherever I want, make sure the sensor is going to be free, the wires are going to be located nicely, and I can get a drill where I need the drill. And first I'll do a little pilot hole, and then I'll go on to a uni bit 3/4, and then I'll put the permanent clamps on this with the gasket, and then thread in our sensor. All right, got the exhaust drilled out. I took an air drill with a uni bit, and I marked 3/4 with a paint marker. This way I knew how far to go with it for the oxygen sensor bung, and was able to get the drill in my hand down past the booster. I'll show you the top of the exhaust off to the side a little bit, and there's my hole. So I'll clean that up a little bit, and then I can mount the adapter and then put the sensor in it, and then move on to the next step. Okay, oxygen sensor mounted. I'm near the starter, but plenty of room to get the starter out, and plenty of room to safely route the wires up to the unit. And I like it. I'll just trim these. Those are the supplied clamps. And then we'll see how it works. I also, on the top of the exhaust where I drilled the hole for the sensor, I took a whiz wheel and cleaned up the exhaust pipe just to make sure that it got a better seal once I clamped everything down. So good idea if you got a little surface rust like this one does, clean up the area before you clamp it, and then it'll help it seal better. So now, this is a month or so later, and I'm wrapping up the video on Nikki's car. Basically, I tried getting her a fuel-injected fuel tank from a company, and they were on back order for months. So I was waiting, I thought they had one coming, never did. So I had to order the inline fuel pump filter kit through Holley. So first choice was the tank that had to pump in it with the baffles and everything. So this is the second choice. So I'm going to show you how I did it. I went ahead and mounted this on the frame, on the outer portion of the frame. Took off the passenger side rear wheel. And I'll go ahead and make a little plate for this eventually, and it'll cover up everything here on a little angle. The wheel misses it by about 7 inches, so it's clear. But basically, high pressure pump, high pressure filter, new feed line feeding the Sniper unit. I left the old 3/8 line that used to feed the carburetor, but now this is a return line going into the sending unit of the tank. So you're supposed to have the same size feed as the same size return line. So we got 3/8, 3/8. They do supply you with 12 or 15 feet of rubber. I didn't want to do that running all underneath the car. So I went ahead and bought another factory style 3/8 metal line, and it follows underneath the car all the way up front. And just a little bit of a cleaner job, I think, rather than running rubber. So 3/8 feed, 3/8 return, and this is going into the sending unit. I used a factory sending unit in the tank, and on the Holley system, they went ahead and in the kit, they sell a little fitting that you can drill out your sending unit, or somewhere's in the tank, but I chose to drill out the sending unit. It's going to be hard to see, but it is right there. So I drilled out the sending unit and put their fitting in there, and that hose going to it is going to the return line all the way back up to the Sniper. And the other fitting, well, not a fitting, it's the factory fitting. That's my rubber line that's feeding the new pump and filter assembly. So one factory hole was already in the frame, so I drilled one hole in the frame, 2 rubber grommets, 1 on each side, and then this is the feed. So the feed comes into a low pressure filter, into your high pressure motor, into a high pressure filter, and like I said before, into the line up to the Sniper unit. So that's the way I did it. You can see it loops around, and then that goes to the sending unit. Blue wire is the feed that feeds the pump. This was a factory hole in the frame. I drilled a really small one on the other side, and then I ran the blue wire right through the frame, and I followed the path of the sending unit factory wire. So the feed wire to the pump is following the factory sending unit for your fuel float. And then I went ahead and did my ground right to the frame. I didn't do it over here because these have little rubber washers, little rubber insulators, and I did that for vibration and maybe sound. Maybe it'll keep it quiet. We'll know soon. And that's it. So, Holley is now complete, other than some things I want to do that aren't necessarily in the directions, but I want to put a fuel pressure gauge on the feed. Definitely want to do that. Couple things that had happened that we had to go ahead and do to make it run proper was do a new alternator. So we put a higher amp alternator and voltage regulator, and I did a resistor, and I redid a bunch of Nikki's wires. Come to find out, a lot of that stuff was old. I still need to get it into some looms, but I went ahead from the bulkhead, replaced a bunch of stuff that was just old and dry rotted, and over the years somebody had spliced into it, so it really wasn't up to par. Remember, the Sniper pulls power, so depending on how you have it hooked up, you might have to do a little bit of custom wiring, because the unit needs over 12 volts to run itself. So if your alternator's not charging back at least 12.5 volts, I don't think it's going to run correct, or at least 12 volts. So anyways, upgraded some wires. Like I said, did the alternator, and we wanted it stock appearing. Got her air cleaner back on there, and that's the way we want it to look. Don't want it to look too fancy, and it runs good. So we'll make another video of going over all the parameters and things with the handheld. Come on over on this side. I'm gonna go ahead and start it up. And once you start it, it's going to show some of your parameters. It's going to show what your alternator's putting out as far as power. It's 12 something. I like that. And then there's all different kinds of settings, which we'll have to go over and maybe make a part 2 video. The car needs to be driven for a bit. It needs to adjust everything, and you can also make some adjustments yourself, but that's about it. We're happy the way it came out. We're happy the way it's running, and now it's just a matter of tweaking and doing a couple of custom things that I wanted to do, like the fuel pressure gauge, and that's really about it. But hope you enjoyed. Hopefully this helped, and stay tuned for the next part when we make some adjustments, let you know how it's running after we put maybe 100 or so miles on it. And please remember to like and subscribe.